Hi everyone, welcome tonight. And today we're just going to talk about the problem that we have and the stresses that we experience when we are actually playing the wrong role in the wrong time. This is something that is in response to a message that I got yesterday, a nice, beautiful, deep, heartfelt message that I got yesterday. And I just wanted to give a little bit of a support in response to that message. Hi, Sharon. And For those of you who don't know me, and this is the first time that you are on my lives, my name is Dr. Clara Bush Collins, and I'm a professor and author, and I'm also the CEO of the Winning Mind Institute. And my major thing is to help those individuals that have some kind of a big desire. They really want to accomplish a goal, and they feel that they are stuck. There is something that is inside them, as what I usually call the having that soul in your soul, that song in your soul, and you want to make sure that you sing it. You want to make sure that you don't die before that song have been sung. So that's what I help people, is to find that song and to be able to sing it properly. So today what I wanted to talk to you about is the different roles that we play and the understanding of one extremely important element of our life. And this is that every single part of our life, like for example, if we get to be, we play the role of a child, right? When we are growing up, hi Sharon, when we are growing up, we are playing the role of a child, right? So many times you see that some of the children that had uh, a broken home, or they had a difficulty when they were growing up. And by the way, I'm providing you as much of a background as I can, because this was suggested by a friend that I give you as much of the look and not as much of me. So if you are, when you're growing up, you are playing a particular role. And when children have a lot of difficulties in their lives, like in my particular life, I was totally hunky-dory and everything was fantastic in my life. And then suddenly, when I was about 12 years old and I was preparing to write a little poem for my parents' anniversary, suddenly my sister, my older sister, she says, well, that's not exactly appropriate anymore. And I was like, why not? And suddenly she says, well, they are going to be separating, and this is kind of over. And that just like my whole world just fell apart. And suddenly I went from the role of that innocent child, a totally naive child, which my sister still would say to you that I still have incredible naivety in me. That's, maybe my downfall, maybe also the one that's cute about me, whatever it is. And I suddenly went from this totally naive child that everything was great into this completely different lost human being. And I couldn't play that role anymore. I had to get rid of that role because that role was not fitting for me anymore. Now, happens to us is that when we are growing older, and again, I want to let the whole world know, I am not a mother, I am not a parent. So based on that, I can't claim that I know what it feels like to be a mother or what it feels like to be a parent. I am a human being. And as a human being, I have played millions of different roles in my life. And where we go wrong, based on my understanding, based on my studies, based on research that I've done the last 15 years now, is that when we can't really separate ourselves from the role that we're supposed to play in a particular situation. And when, for example, our children already grow up, our children are already, 18 years old, 19, 20, so forth and so on, based on our based on our predetermined roles, we're supposed to let them go and we're supposed to let them live their lives. So the role of a parent supposed to be either, if we like our children, I know this sounds really bad what I'm saying, but if we are close to the children, if we can stay as a friend in their lives, and we can switch that role to become a friend. And most of the mothers and fathers will become like a friend. But the reason why I'm telling you this, that distinction, is because if you remain a parent, in your children's lives for the rest of their life and the rest of your life, you are going to experience the stresses, the pain tenfold than if you understand that at a certain point they become an adult, and when they become an adult, they are supposed to walk their own path. In fact, they are actually supposed to walk their own path when they are a child. So one of my client, her and I, we had this really deep discussion because she is of a very similar origin as myself, very strict household rules. Parent dictates the rules, and parents is the one that sets all the different things, and then the parent is really the one that knows what's good for the child. But if the child has different capabilities, different abilities, different desires than what we as a parent in our role think is right for them, then they're not going to be able to open up to us the way they should and the way they could become closer to us. So for example, if I'm playing the parent role all the time, or if I'm playing, like today I had a student in my coming on, and he's wonderful human being, but he is messing up in class, and I could be failing him. So I had to switch the role of the teacher. The teacher would have failed the student by now, right? But I had to switch the role of the teacher to a role of, yes, even a friend. I'm not like buddy, hello, and whatever, first name basis, but a friend. What would a friend say to this student? So I have to play those roles, because once I took off that teacher role, the professor role, and I became the friend for this student, first of all, I had a lot less stress about it, because I wasn't thinking about, holy cow, what am I going to do? The paperwork, the failing students. And also it turned into a much better relationship with the student. And I said, listen, I am telling you this advice as a friend right now, okay? And I'm not a friend that you can just pick up the phone and call. But I am telling you that if I were a friend of yours, this is what I would suggest for you to do. And that took off the incredible stress that he was feeling towards me and what I would have been feeling towards him. And it's the same thing that I found that even with my father, who was a very tough disciplinarian, and Leanne, you probably know, based on my soccer perfectionism, how tough that disciplinarian was. So when I really was in trouble, and hell no, yes, I was in trouble a bunch of times in my life, but when I was really in trouble, he would literally take off that parent role. I don't know what happened, but that was the switch. He would put that parent role off and immediately go into that guiding friend type of a role, and we had our best conversations about the stuff that I got myself into. Now, 10 minutes later, he would put that tough parent role back on, but for those moments, that would be that friend role coming on. And what we need to work on here is, when we have a student and or we have a child and or we have a spouse that's literally destroying themselves. They are destroying themselves, okay? There is a limit. There is a limit to where it is our responsibility to save them from themselves. And as all those people that are highly enlightened, I am not there yet. God knows I'm trying to work my way through it. But it makes sense when somebody says to me that, everybody is born to this world to walk their own path. And my role as a spouse, my role as a teacher, my role as not as much as a parent, but even as an aunt to my nieces, and sometimes I have my conversations with them like a parent that would support them on their own path, but I have to let them walk their own path. And this is the part where just 2 days ago, when I realized that the situation at home is as such that I can't really control how much water my husband drinks, because if I just go to the bathroom and he goes to the to the refrigerator and has more water, there's nothing I can do about it. If you have a child that have some kind of a disability, if you have a child that's some kind of an addiction, and they have gotten to that point, this is, you have to take of that role, or of that role of responsibility, that it is your fault, or it is something that you have to keep doing something about, because there is a point in your life that you just have to say, I've done the best I could. This is all I can do right now. Okay, I was given the tools that I was given. I did the best I could do with those tools, but as of this moment, it is not my responsibility. And you have to take that role of yourself, because here's what happens if you don't take off that role of the responsible parent, of the responsible professor, of the responsible spouse. If you don't take off that role, it's gonna be killing you, because you're gonna feel guilty about every move you make. If your daughter, your son, your student, your spouse, if they do something that is destroying them, okay, and you were not there to protect them, if you can't remove yourself from that role and literally take a step back and create distance, then you are going to be hurting yourself. Now, you would say right now, oh yeah, well, it's easier said than done. I totally get you. So that's why, like, for example, in my memberships that we work towards with all my clients, what we do is we literally take these step by step, we take them apart, and we figure out what is the trigger for each one of my clients, each one of my students, that gets them into that guilty state, that gets them back into that role that I'm responsible, this is my job, blah, 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 blah. So what I wanted to tell you tonight is, it is not your job after a while. You do as much as you can. And even if your child is underage, okay? When I was teaching vocational school, I loved teaching in vocational school. And they just totally didn't care about physical education. So it's not because they love the subject matter, but they were butting into these young people that are going to be grown-ups. And I knew there too that there was a certain point that I can lead them to. And some of those students grew very close to me because they were in my teams. They were just doing phenomenal things. And I was in a vocational school where it was a culinary school. So they were cooking me and baking me some incredible stuff back then. But there was a limit that we could and I could do for them, because after that they had to make their decisions. And I educate them to the level that I can. You educate your children, you educate your spouse if they need be, you educate everyone that's around you to the limit that you can. But after that, and you know it, by the way, you know when you are done, you know when you are completed. And the only reason why you go back to try is because the guilt that we feel around it, because of the responsibility that we feel around it. Okay? And that guilt and that sense of responsibility, those are the things that we have to remove with a variety of tools, with a particular sequence, to make sure that you don't ruin yourself. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about today, because this was triggered yesterday. And this is something that I learned through my own journey, and things that I want to continue to talk to you about as we move forward, of how I got to be who I am today, which is far from where I want to be, because I get triggered, I have all this, but still I have the tools to balance it out. Okay, so I just hope that this was useful for you. If you need any more support in your personal journey, I have my free Facebook group, which is the Rock Your Resilience and Rebuild, which was just built, and we already almost 100 people. It's amazing. We just started it. Come on, join us. You get to talk to me, quote unquote, there. You will have a good time with us, and hopefully I can support you on your way to becoming that resilient person that understands what your role in life is, and understands that, as I literally take that role off. When I leave school, I leave that role there, and with you anymore. And you are a parent, and you hear that something happened to your child, right? When you are done talking to your child about that event, about that situation, what you do is then you just literally pull down the shingles and say, done, done. I am gonna live my life now and play my role as who I am. So I am a teacher in the morning. I had this talk with the student, couple hours. We're trying to save his semester, right? After that, it's done. I pulled that thing, I took off that role, and I'm going back to being Clara. I'm going back to being, the parent, or I'm going back to being the spouse, okay? Because if you're mixing all these things up, the only thing you're gonna create is a ton of pressure on yourself and a ton of stress on yourself, okay? We could do this like in my membership, we dive deep into them, which is one of the things that we're gonna be launching again 2.0 in June. But once you get a grip at least on this idea, I just want you to get it, okay? So before I leave, I just want to show you the sun is setting soon, okay? But you can't see it as nice as it usually, but I haven't had dinner yet, so I'm gonna go home and have dinner with my husband, and just wanted to show you these things, and hopefully it helps you going forward. And again, if you have any questions, either on the comments or privately, just message me. I really appreciate you opening up, and it's definitely helping me teach you. All right? Have fun, everybody. See you tomorrow.